Throughout the years, Fortnite has introduced a ton of new weapons to the loot pool, and some of these weapons have been great, some have been mediocre, and some have been straight up bad. So today, we're gonna focus on the bad ones as we take a look at the worst weapons in all of Fortnite history. Kicking off today's list, we have the DMR. Now, we've had several DMRs added since Chapter 3, but by far my least favorite version of the weapon is the original version from Chapter 3, Season 3. I've honestly never understood the hype for the DMR, as it's pretty much just a sniper that deals less damage. I get the DMR has multiple shots versus a single shot like most snipers have in the loot pool, but the thing is, at least a sniper rewards you for a well-placed shot, as the DMR feels like you're chipping away at the opponent's health, and besides the initial headshot, the damage feels pretty lacking. Next up on my list is one of my least favorite weapons of all time with the Ranger Assault Rifle from Chapter 3. I understand the rifle is slow because it's supposed to be a heavy hitter, but I never truly felt like the damage it would deal made up for the slow fire rate of the weapon. And although the Ranger was fairly accurate, I consider it to be the worst AR from Chapter 3. I always opted for the MK7 or the Hammer Assault Rifle over the Ranger, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Next on our list is the Recycler from Chapter 2, Season 6. Now the main point of this weapon was to harvest materials, and then take those resources that you've harvested and convert them into ammo that you're able to use for the Recycler. The problem is, this weapon took way too long to turn the resources into ammo, not to mention this was classified as a launcher, but the splash effect on players was pretty weak, and it also didn't do damage to builds, which are quite literally the main two uses of a launcher, so I'm not sure why it's classified as a launcher. For the next few picks, I have something pretty cool for you guys, as a few friends of the channel will be joining me to give their picks for the worst weapon in Fortnite history, starting with Pojo.
Thank you for having me on, Twisty. Anyways, what is the worst gun in Fortnite history in under a minute? Well, I believe that title goes to the Hammer Pump Shotgun. Yes, I did not stutter. I think that the Hammer Pump Shotgun is legit the worst gun in the history of Fortnite. It lacks on every front. The damage output is some of the most inconsistent for what's supposed to be a heavy hitter shotgun. The bullet spread is atrocious, and the damage per second is some of the worst a shotgun can have. If you don't know, the DPS on a Hammer Pump Shotgun is 59.5 damage. Which, newsflash, is awful. It deals barely any damage to builds, the reload time is so bad that I'm impressed Epic approved of this abomination of a release, and has been in for all of Chapter 5. I hate this weapon with a burning passion, and the only reason it stays in the game is to please the 7 players who actually like this gun. And the only reason they like it is to cope with the fact that their precious pump shotgun isn't in the game.
The next weapon that we have to talk about is the Hunter Bolt Action Sniper. Now, at face value, this seems like the hottest take in all of Fortnite history. However, I'm specifically referring to the pre-buff version, or the version that was in for most of Chapter 3 Season 1. I remember the sniper having incredibly low bullet velocity, and it couldn't one-shot headshot, which seems like a decent balance, but just consider the other weapons that were in that season's loot pool. With guns like the MK7 and Stinger SMG, I'm not going to be too keen on carrying a sniper that does 98 to the body. It was simply outclassed by everything else in that loot pool, and it's much better, possibly the best sniper ever now that it has been buffed.
Now, out of every single gun that Fortnite has added to their game, the makeshift weapons were by far the worst one. Especially the shotgun. That thing was absolutely disgusting, and not in a good way. One of the worst parts about them was that they just were not needed in the game at all. Like really, this is Fortnite, not Follow. I don't understand why we needed to downgrade the pump and turn it into a shotgun that only shoots out 2 bullets every magazine. And then on top of that, has like some of the slowest reload speed I've ever seen, and not even that good of a fire rate either. In my opinion, what they could have done with the whole crafting system is just give us the base loot pool with the pump and the tack, and you can side grade those into the primal weapons, or you can use the mechanical parts to side grade it into either the tack if you have a pump, or a pump if you have a tack. Outside of all of that though, the damage on this gun wasn't terrible, but with how slow the fire rate really was on this gun and with its reload speed, you had a better chance of killing someone with the rock than you actually did with the shotgun.
The worst weapon ever is the Charge SMG. I'm going to die on this hill. This weapon was just so terrible when it first came out. First off, it took the same mechanic as the Charge shotgun, which you hold down on the trigger more, let go, and depending on how long you charge it, it does a certain amount of damage. And I'm personally a fan of the Charge shotgun. I like that gun a lot. That mechanic does not translate well into any sort of spray gun like an SMG or an AR. With a Charge shotgun, it makes sense because you hold it down more, you do more damage, and you have to aim your shot. And that's normally what you're supposed to do with a shotgun. But with the Charge SMG, yes, you do have to aim, but you don't necessarily have to hit every single shot in order for you to kill someone. But with this embarrassment of a weapon, you shoot more bullets. Why would I want to charge up in order to shoot more bullets? I should just be able to hold down on the trigger and shoot. I shouldn't have to hold down to charge up the gun and shoot. And again, I said that this works with a shotgun because you're supposed to line up your shots with a shotgun, not with an AR or an SMG. Also, the recoil on this thing was so bad. When you finally got to charge up all your shots, you would miss every single one because of how crazy the recoil was. Also, the damage on this thing was so bad. 16 damage per shot and 24 for a headshot. That's so terrible. I can get 24 on the body with literally any other SMG in the loot pool. Well, actually, you shoot your bullets really fast. That doesn't really matter when the recoil is so garbage. Not to mention, in builds, this thing is basically useless because of how low the damage is. You could literally build a wall and you will be safe. Also, who the hell is going to have time to hold down the trigger for like 4 seconds when you're in the middle of a fight? Unless you pre-plan out your attack from behind an enemy, which, by the way, this thing makes a really loud noise when you're charging it up, so you can't sneak up on someone with this thing. You, like, try to sneak up and it goes like... This weapon is so bad! I hate it so much! Epic! Why the hell did you make that?
Well, I hope Smurf is all good after that nuclear explosion that his hatred for the Charge SMG caused. So be sure you go over and check on him on his channel to make sure he's okay after this video. Next up on our list, we have the 2-shot shotgun from Chapter 3, Season 3. Now in Chapter 2, Season 6, I wasn't a fan of the primal shotgun, which was also a 2-round burst. Now the main issue that I had with this shotgun was most of the time, you were only able to land one of the hits, so it made the damage pretty weak. But outside of the effectiveness of the item, I just think shotguns are one of those things where if it's not broke, don't fix it. The mechanic of a pump shotgun is simple and effective, and I can even tolerate some of the full auto shotguns that we've received in the loot pool. But once we start getting into these shotguns that take the main point of close range heavy hitters away, they just start losing my interest. Moving on to our next entry on today's list, we have the Kinetic Boomerang from Chapter 4, Season 3. Yes, this technically isn't a weapon as it's classified as an item, but I personally just had to include it on the list. Leading up to Wilds, we had some great items that were exclusive to each season, as Season 1 had the Shockwave Hammer, and of course Season 2 had the Kinetic Blade, which was an absolute chef kiss of an item. Then we had this thing in Season 3. Using this item straight up felt like you were wearing a kick me sign on the back of your skin, because by the time you did any real damage with the boomerang, you were already eliminated. The cap shield that we currently have in the game is a much better weapon with the same concept, and all I can say is thank God that this item was vaulted for the majority of Wilds, because I really didn't enjoy it. So be sure you chime in the comments below and give your input on what you think is the worst Fortnite weapon of all time. I want to give a huge shout out to Smurf, Rim, Aggro, and Pojo for hopping on today's video, and if you haven't checked out their channels, they'll be in the description below. But until next time guys, as always, take care and stay twisty.